Thank you for tuning your machine to our broadcast. I'm Van,
And I'm Davis.
and we are
Holy
Holy
Moley
Moley
Comics. It's
Comics.
probably weird with the delay.
That's all part of the fun. As you can see, viewer, uh, we are kind of shifting our setup a little bit. We are recording remotely. Unfortunately, there was an incident recently in the broadcast studio. A parasitic alien mold was discovered, and our poor host Davis was infected, and he's sort of in decontamination right now.
Yeah, the government won't let me out.
Yeah, they're always keeping the holy molies down. So,
Mm.
as such, we're doing this different setup today. Davis, why don't you tell us what we're doing?
Yeah, today we're going to be ranking Batsuits strictly from comics. This list would be ginormous if we were doing Batsuits and all media, but we're going to be going through and just giving our thoughts on stuff from classic to cool, funky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think at some point doing an additive one of film adaptations and animation especially would be really fun.
Mhm.
Especially because like obviously the channel very comic focused. That's where we want to keep a lot of our attention, but all of this stuff is tangential to that. And for me at least, a lot of my early love for DC came from the animated universe, and so I'd love to pay some homage to that at some point.
Yeah, well, and there's just plenty of cool stuff to talk about in that as well. But I think definitely keeping it comics focused for this first one, we'll get a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I put together this PowerPoint. I tried to pull from various comprehensive lists that I found online, because obviously Batman is a character that's been around for 80 years. Recently just celebrated the 80th anniversary. And so the man has worn many a suit. And so sort of finding a good way to collect all that was really interesting. So there are definitely some that I've missed, that might have been just sort of like fun, goofy one-time ones, or ones that only appeared in like a single issue or something. So there definitely might be some gaps, but I tried to get a lot of the big sort of iconic ones that might be pretty recognizable. I've also sort of broken it up into three different parts. Part one being continuity based, essentially being like focused on Bruce Wayne as Batman from Genesis and late 1930s to modern time. And then part two is Elseworlds Batman, so those could be Bruce Wayne, just in some other world. And then lastly, I have a non-Bruce Wayne Batman, which only has a couple entries, but there's a couple fun, notable times in which other characters have donned the mantle of Batman, and so I thought that would be fun to include some of their suits in there as well. Shall we just jump right into?
Yeah, let's just dive in.
All right. We're also going to be ranking these based on the classic sort of
Tier
tier
list.
system. Yep. With S being number one, going through A, B, C, skipping E and going to F. I think a lot of some these lists exclude an F, and I think you kind of need it sometimes. So, all right, just make sure I'm on the right tab. All right. First things first, first appearance. 1939 to 1940. Even when they first introduced Batman, there was little tweaks that were happening, issue to issue in those early days. So this is sort of just a once over of just this look.
It's amazing how much of this has remained in his like mainstream design. Honestly, the same for like most kind of the golden age, especially DC characters. Like Superman, Wonder Woman look remarkably similar to how they originally looked too, but like they got it like 90% there the first go, like pretty much iconic right off the bat. No pun intended, but
well, you're right. It's amazing how like right from launch, they're right there. Especially if you look at early sketches. I thought about putting this for everyone, but it's hard to sort of distill designs when so many artists and creators like participate in the creation of these things. But I want to obviously say, like, Bill Finger, a huge part of the duo-ship that created Batman. For so long, he was not given any sort of credit. Bob Kane notoriously was sort of like a credit hog. If you don't believe me, look at his headstone. For those who don't know, it pretty much is like, I created Batman, like, and the dude's got all the credit
to the point that he was even working with ghost artists and taking the credit that way, which is insane to think about, like someone doing that in this time. But yeah,
but he knew he had something,
yeah.
The formation of something sort of really special. Because like, while Superman might be one of the early superheroes, Batman is one of the most iconic, most recognizable characters just in pop culture. I think you could pull a global sort of population, and I think one person from every single country would at least recognize Batman and maybe something about him. But I didn't include the creators or artists for every entry. I just wanted to shout out Bill Finger because just for so long he just didn't get any credit. But if you look at early sketches of what they're initially thinking before, there's sort of like, I didn't include in this, but there's like the red leotard and sort of the Da Vinci style like wing apparatus and stuff. So it's kind of crazy that we avoided what at the time that would have been a more probably proper look for a superhero in this age. And it's amazing that even though they didn't take it to the darkness that other creators would with the character, like they chose Batman as a figure of darkness so early on, straying away from that red leotard look. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, again, like it's obviously iconic, and obviously so much of what design choices they made for this suit stuck around. I do think that improvements were made upon it kind of later on. So I don't know if it's quite like S tier. I'd put this A tier, I think. Just because, again, like it's obviously like the foundational Batman suit. And yeah, and it's again like 90% there, even just with like the choice of like the yellow belt, the insignia in the same spot, like that's stuff that I think in future redesigns they could have potentially really tweaked, and some have, but like again, it's just like you look at that, even though it's not exactly how we picture Batman, you know that that's Batman. Like you don't have to be like, oh, it's an early version of Batman. It's like, no, that's just a Batman suit.
Yeah, the core of the character is right there.
Yeah, so I'd put this in A.
I'm gonna agree with you. If this was a personal list, I would actually put this in S. This is in my top 5 Batman costumes. I don't know what it is about this first appearance. I absolutely love this sort of more curved outward ears. I love the purple gloves. But I have to say, and for this PowerPoint, I wanted to showcase the costume as it originally appeared, and not necessarily from renditions of other artists, when possible. When Darwin Cook draws this Batman, that is why I love it so much.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest parts about New Frontier. You even see the evolution throughout that book of him in this early phase to kind of his more like Silver Age look.
Yeah, that part. We're going to talk about New Frontier at some point. That's one of my favorite DC books of all time. But Batman changes his costume into sort of the blue and gray kind of look, because he doesn't want to. He's there to scare bad guys, not children, which is such a great part of the character. But yeah, A tier all the way. I love this suit. I come back to it very often when I think about like drawing Batman. I don't know. It's so different, but I love the classicness of of it. I know it premiered in the 40s, but
Mhm.
I love that era in terms of aesthetic and storytelling and narrative, especially when you do like a pulpy superhero thing. So
Mhm.
this fits so well, especially they did the new animated series, The Caped Crusader, where they heavily used uh, both Golden Age designs, but also specifically this design for Batman. And I think that was a phenomenal show, and I really like that suit.
Mhm.
So yeah, A tier all the way. All right, next up we have the Golden Age look. The Golden Age look stuck around for a long time. Like I said, there would be little tweaks, you know, over time. I mean, some of these costumes were running for decades. Changes here and there, different appearances would pop up. So this is just sort of a catch-all for Golden Age.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, take it away. What do you think?
I mean, initial thoughts on this one. I know this is a thing with Batman, even up to today, with the blue, kind of how it's meant to be interpreted. If
Mhm.
it's meant to be like reflection on black, or if it is an actual blue cape and cowl and boots. I feel like in this version, it's like pretty undeniably blue.
Yes,
You know,
he will be blue for quite a while.
yeah, um, yeah. I think it's it again. Obviously, an iconic look. Um, I don't think it's quite as strong as the original. Like even like they make the improvements in my eyes. Like the kind of more horns on the original cowl is a good look. This is an improvement, straightening
Mhm.
them out. Um,
It's more iconic, and it fits the
mhm.
character better. I will admit.
and and we also get the like fins on the gloves, the kind of bat wing things on the
Yeah, the
gloves.
sort of spikes.
Hmm. So I think I don't know. Kind of hard to say. I would probably also put this one in A tier. Um, yeah, it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's like they nailed Batman quite yet.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, what do you think?
For me, I'll agree with A tier. I would maybe consider B, but only because I have a weird relationship with Blue Batman. Sometimes I really like it, sometimes I don't. The reason I'm going to give this one a pass is because just like the first appearance has sort of its own novelty to it. This you could consider like the first appearance of what would become sort of the template for Batman, like the more
Hmm.
common template in terms of like how his cowl looks, what to expect with his cape, like I said, the armbands, utility belt, all that stuff. So this is essentially like first appearance 2.0.
Hmm.
And for that, I think it uh, has to be respected because so much good would later be derived from this sort of like foundation that they've
Hmm.
constructed. So,
Yeah, I'd agree.
and also I love Golden Age type stuff. Even though a lot of my favorite stories don't come from that, I have a fondness looking back at that era of characters and everything.
Well, and this is where you can kind of tell. I mean, not that Batman started out like gritty or anything, but it was especially those early comics, like the early detective comics. They were kind of more serious crime stories,
Batman
and
had a
this,
gun.
yeah, and this is where they kind of start to really embrace and lean into the camp. I think,
Mm-hmm.
which is still obviously great, but just a different vibe, you know. So Batman feels less kind of like a force to be reckoned with
Mm-hmm.
in this version, and more again more just kind of like a yeah like a just a caped guy swinging around, you know.
Yeah, not necessarily the Dark Knight yet.
Hmm.
That era has not come about yet. All right, moving on to, of course, the Silver Age. Um, Again, sort of like as is natural to the history of comics, it's always in flux. Things are always changing. Um, as with anything, anytime a media or a medium becomes more popular, there comes with it, you know, issues of censorship. There come issues of being defensive or protective, or you know, moral outcries, whatever have you. You know, Silver Age is, it's still before Comics Code Authority, but it's when they started to be like, oh, we're going sci-fi. We're doing more sci-fi things, not doing crime as much. When it, you know, Batman is a World War II hero. Post-war, people don't want crime and grit and death. They literally just lived through one of the most horrific events in human history. They want camp, like you said, and I think Silver Age Batman delivers that pretty often. But in terms of the suit, what do you think?
This to me is like, this is like Batman. You know what I mean? This is where they kind of hit the nail on the head. And obviously, like, differences were brought in down the line, but like they kind of kept this version of the suit for like 30 years. Like,
Absolutely.
So to me, this is S tier. This is like, this is Batman's look. You know, I think this is where they first really landed on like, where they could take it and kind of do all the crazy stuff, like, even up until like in the Nightfall books and stuff. Like, this is what he looks like. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and in the presentation I have it like 1950s, 1960s. It's very loose. Like you said, like this is a type of look that would be returned to consistently for almost 30 years. And so this is just sort of the genesis of when that concept began. And you're right, it is iconic for a reason. It is well utilized. See, this is where we get into the I don't know if I like the blue Batman as much as I like other color schemes for Batman. And it's not that I dislike it. I think I just like other stuff more.
Yeah, this is going to be a hard list for me because I don't want it to be like, yeah, everything's great. You know,
I know it's hard because it's like, so I think for my, for my own personal ranking, and we'll just do like some sort of aggregate between the two of us. I definitely am only leaning towards B just because I like other looks more. But this works. The suit works really well as a design for reading. You know, because you can play with shadow separate from the costume. You know, like you're saying earlier, like so much of comics is color design is weird because it has to be interpretive. You know, it's sort of like the Punisher isn't wearing blue and white. He is wearing black and white. Blue just can showcase sort of like a realm of shadow and
it's a way to give it volume. In the same way that like Superman's hair isn't blue, you know.
Yeah, it's just so you can add sheen to it essentially, so it has more dimensionality to it. And I think that I think this is definitively blue. Like when he puts it in the washing machine, it is blue. But I think it works really well for the page.
Well, and I think you have to take into account like kind of the technology that was available for coloring and reproducing. Like, I think that's a big reason they went that route, because even if it is meant to be black, like you don't have that many variations of like gray tones and black to communicate that like we do now. So it's like you're limited to like your base blue and then maybe a highlight and a shadow, you know. So, but it also I think gives it like this image on the left here, like obviously decisions were made to contrast the background there to kind of make it pop more. Just probably also decisions that they made all the time for covers just to stand out on the shelves, you know. So I agree. It's definitely, I think that is a blue cape. That is a blue cowl. It's just, it's interesting to think like that it might not have been the intention, but it definitely turned into it. And even when you're reading stuff from this time, like it's just, you can't really shake around it. Like Yeah, it's a blue costume, you know.
It's a blue costume, but it's not. What's interesting about it is, and this might be my final thought on it, is the blue isn't necessarily like a crayon box blue. I feel like for the most part, at least in this iteration of it, like it is a color that distinctly works with Batman's aesthetic. It works with the rest of his costume. It works with the gray. It works with the yellow. It works with the black. Um, Whereas some other renditions would later be like a little bit darker of a blue, which I might like more aesthetically, but works less as like a cohesive color scheme. But yeah, I just have weird feelings about the blue.
Yeah.
I don't like them as much, but they're more consistent in the comics, I think, than in other forms of media.
Mm-hmm.
All
So
right,
I think, I guess, aggregate, we can, you said B, I said S, so we can throw this an A. Yeah.
And look, we're fans. If we have a lot of high-ranking things, it's just because we're here to promote our love and passion for things, and not necessarily like harp on them too much. It's more fun to talk about stuff you like than stuff you don't like. All right, moving on into the Bronze Age. So this is where I was talking about like that blue gets darker, and I think I like it a little bit more in terms of preference, but it makes for a more jarring contrast of his overall costume than the lighter blue does. What do you feel about Bronze Age? And again, this is a broad, like, he wore this costume for a long time. It's hard to distill it just to one.
Yeah, I mean,
era.
design-wise, it's practically identical to Silver Age. I think, yeah, just in terms of coloring is where they make the biggest change. Yeah, I guess I would throw this probably. I don't know. It's not that different. I don't want to like throw it way down, but I do think that the darker blue kind of, even for story purposes, might work a little better for someone who's supposed to be, lurking around at nighttime, but it doesn't scratch the same itch to me as the Silver Age version. So I'd maybe throw this down in like a B.
I think that's fair. Like I said, even though I think from an artistic standpoint, like if I was to draw this suit, or pick a blue suit, I think I would go with this darker color. But in terms of like being iconic, yeah, I don't think it's as fitting. See, that's where the weirdness comes in. Is sort of like I say I like this color more, but then I'll rank it lower than the other one. It's just how these things work. It's really weird. Yeah. Like you said, this is pretty similar to what we saw before, so not too much change. So we're gonna go forward. B tier. B for bronze. All right. Here's where we get cooking. This is one of the few non-comic art pages I put in, but that's just because some of the images are really difficult, like to find like a solid non-action figure, like full body picture of this suit. This is the Dark Knight Returns suit, the infamous Frank Miller look for Batman, sort of beginning his not the only genesis for this, but sort of beginning to take that dark turn for Batman, who had darkness before, but sort of really leading into it and taking it to a whole new place. Still with full of weird, wacky Miller camp and insanity. What do you feel about this one?
It's got to be S. Like
S plus maybe.
Yeah, like just so cool. And I don't know if we ever saw anything like it before, but like the fat bat just looks so cool. And part of it is less to do with the costume, but just the way that like Batman is just such an imposing like brick wall in this comic. Like it's just such a cool look. I really like the short ears. I'm in kind of short ear. I'm in that camp. I like long ears can look cool, but I think the kind of stubby, little pointy ones look pretty cool. As obviously it was like a huge design influence on the Bat flick costume, but like the comic version, I think was way better than what we got in the movie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is another top 5 for me. Um, Obviously, like the narrative has a lot to do with that, but I love Fat Bat.
Mm,
Um, I love bulky, big Batman.
hmm
I think it's one of my favorite like looks for him, especially because he is not, a superpower character. Like it is fun when he has that more like lean sort of athletic build. I think that does work for him really well. But there's just something about like I have no powers and therefore I must become like just this insane, peak physical mass to
hmm
even just have a chance to not die every night on the streets. I think that's something really cool, especially knowing this is like it's meant to be an old man, but he's like 50 or
hmm
like the bar for old man has raised significantly, um, which is fun. But
hmm
yeah, I love this suit.
You just love a Batman that can break a rifle with his bare hands.
No, that's one of the top moments for me as a Batman fan. I that is his character to me. We do not use this. This is the weapons of the enemy.
Hmm
Like that. I love that part so much. That's one of my favorite Batman moments of all time. And
hmm
so, of course, like the suit is going to be so intrinsically tied to that. And I love how I love gruff, grizzled Bruce Wayne under there. Under the mask. Uh,
hmm
just just plays in that fun of like, yeah, Bruce Wayne is a very handsome guy, attractive playboy. Obviously, Batman has that like dark, brooding handsomeness to him, but like as he ages, he just, he doesn't get decrepit, but you could just see sort of the his life is weighing on him.
hmm
He has that sort of I don't even know how to explain it, but just you can see the years have taken their toll on Batman,
hmm
for in really interesting ways. Uh, and I think that I just think it's so phenomenal.
hmm
Definite S tier. And I don't think it looks as good in any other form than um, comic book.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's just something about yeah, seeing it in live action, like it kind of I don't know if it almost just kind of breaks the illusion of like how formidable he is in the comic. Like, because the Batfleck suit, uh, like even though it's cool, like kind of just looks goofy when he's walking around in it.
Yeah. Well, the issue is Ben Affleck is inside of it,
Hmm
and it's not like I can say that. Oh well, the right person can't make anything work. But for me, Affleck wasn't it. Um,
hmm
I think it's just one of those sort of like that. This comic isn't trying to be realistic, right? It plays with proportion. It plays with sort of the wackiness and wildness of the artistic medium, and so I think it can only be captured in animation,
hmm
or like we had those really great sort of adaptations of this. But like, if we were to see it now, I would rather see it in like sort of a Spider Verse, like insane, Kingpin is huge kind of way,
hmm
because the human body is just not made to
They
made to look
actually
like
look like
this,
that. Yeah.
or the people who could look like this don't have the acting chops that would be necessary to portray
hmm
this character in a way that I would find satisfying. But yeah, this is one of the greatest of all time.
hmm
And again, there's as with everything, there's going to be like if you read it, you might like it more, and if you don't know it, you might not like it as much. That's just kind of name of the game with comics. You like what you like, and um, all the other stuff is an excuse to get into more. All right.
hmm
Of course, I wanted to throw a bonus the power suit that he wears. And as I could put a couple bonus power suits on, not as their own entry, so we don't have to rank it. But I love the power suit.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love how like just kind of not high tech it looks like. It's just like a bunch of metal that he just puts on to beat the crap out of Superman. You know, like
I mean, he almost looks like he. Of course, I know this looks really weird how I put this like this, but it's hard to find like good sort of compact images. Like he looks like he's at a sleepover and they're doing like a pillow fight and he's like duct taped like padded armor to himself or something to defend better. Like not that makes it sound like it looks bad. It doesn't. It's just like I said, it's not high tech. It just looks durable and it but also looks like he, an old man could wear this and fight in this and everything. Yeah. And I love the helmet too.
Yeah.
And how the arms change and they're just like the symbol itself. There's like a thickness, meatiness to everything. Nothing is thin and lean. All righty. Any other final thoughts on the power suit?
No, and it's
Just
cool.
cool.
It looks awesome.
I think they did okay in trying to adapt it for Batman v Superman. The only biggest problem was that it was in that movie.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah,
agreed.
Sort of in that same realm of like the elevation of the character. Not that it wasn't good before, but they're sort of just like I feel like when Dark Knight Returns came out and Year One, obviously before our time. But the way I've always interpreted it is it's sort of like a new flavor has been discovered. It was as if you discovered like a seventh sense, a sixth, like something, the fourth dimension, something that you didn't even know that you needed, and then now it has changed how you view everything. Yeah, go ahead, take it away.
Well, that's what I feel like. Yeah, like Dark Knight Returns Year One. I think to us, like this is what Batman feels like. It must have been great. It must have been crazy to kind of go from where he was to this and see that flip because it has just become so just like foundational for even like any interpretation that has been brought before a broader audience. Because even the Tim Burton movies, like they're campy, but they're still like just super. They're steeped in this like super dramatic, super gothic flavor, and every Batman movie, not every, the Schumacher ones got real goofy, but like most interpretations since then, like they're very born of this kind of flavor of Batman, where it is just I don't want to say more realistic because it's not, but it's more it's based in a more I guess quote unquote grounded background of just like this is a guy who lives in a crime-ridden hellhole who's like coming up to do what he can about it versus just being him swinging around with Robin all the time,
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. There's something like tactile about it, like and again, it's just like all the others. It's art. It's this illusion of like how could that suit possibly protect him? And the fun thing is a lot of the time it doesn't. That's kind of the fun of it is he's learning. Part of the narrative is like he is throwing himself into this situation and he's trained and he's prepared, but it's sort of like every time he does something, he learns something new. He figures out a better way to do something. Oh, I need to reinforce the cape, or what if it could glide? Like he's always adapting, always updating. But to me, this is Batman. Like when I think of Batman, I think of the black and gray. I think of Year One. I think utility belt. I think the underpants, which I think is a good time to talk about. Do you like the trunks or not when it comes to Batman?
I'm pro trunks. Yeah, it's a hard one to like really justify outside of just like I prefer the way he looks in the trunks.
Yeah.
Like there is no real utility for it. But
No,
when he doesn't have them,
it looks
barring
great.
like yeah, like again, like not to crap on it, the Batfleck suit just it looks weird without him.
He almost looks
And
more naked not having underwear
yeah,
than if he was to have some sort of something.
and even you can kind of imply them with like the more armored takes,
Mm-hmm.
um, like with the Christian Bale Batman's like there's at least kind of some separation happening there.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the implication of like at least a trunk piece. Um, yeah, like, and again, I know this is meant to be comics forward, but like, I, I think maybe this is something that just works better in the comics medium than it does in live action.
And I think
Um,
that's fair to say.
yeah, but
It it just looks
I'm
better.
pro trucks. Yeah.
Well, I think from an artistic standpoint, and while I'm an artist, I don't claim to be a good one. Um, there's just something about the balance that it
Hmm.
brings to the overall image. Um, like I in a weird way, I associate it with like how I see color used in design. Like I'm one of
Hmm.
those people that when I design my own stuff, I like to if I'm going to rate that color has to be matched at least one other place on the costume or the design, unless it is meant to like stand out in
Hmm.
its solidarity. And to me, it's like is such an anchor point. Um,
Yeah, it would just look. It would feel very unbalanced if it was like you've got black cape and cowl, black boots, gray body, separated by the belt, but like it
the
just
belt is
wouldn't
not enough.
feel. Yeah, it wouldn't feel put together without him.
It just is that perfect counterbalance between like you said, the cowl, the cape, and then the boots. The boots
Hmm.
bring it all down. Um, sketch right here. This is just this is phenomenal. This is bad, and it's just an ink drawing. Obviously there's no other
Hmm.
color grading, and yet everything is where it should be, and you can kind of like you don't see the symbol, but it's like everything's where it should be, and you can kind of picture it. You can imagine it. You
Hmm.
know.
When
Um,
you like just composition, if you reduced it to just like the very rough shape and just solid black without the trunk, without that centerpiece there, like your eye kind of doesn't know what's going on with the body, So it's like if you
be
just
too
have
easily
those,
drawn towards that foot.
yeah. So it's such a good counterpoint of what the boots are doing, what the shoulders are doing, to have this middle piece of information. Like this one on the left, if you just had um like it's all suggested with the cape and the boots, but it's like without that piece, if you just had a floating belt there, you'd kind of be like, I can't really tell what's totally happening here.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I think it's a good, probably not the intention of why they started doing it back in the day, but it is a good way to convey kind of um, pose and position quickly and easily, especially if you have just like a small panel to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a good way to sort of trigger like an articulation in your mind.
mhm,
Like obviously it can kind of feel action figure-y, um, in that like you can see where these joints kind of meet, but in a weird way, I feel like that doesn't make it like feel wooden or anything. It just makes
mhm,
it so like you said, you can follow that action better because you know where joints are going and ending.
mhm.
Um,
Well, and a pose is dynamic by I think the relationship between like the hips and the shoulders.
mm-hmm.
Like so, or the opposite. If you want it to feel real formidable, like you want them to kind of occupy the same plane, but you want separation there if you want them to be leaping over a building or leaping through a window or something.
Mm-hmm.
So And it's not that you can't convey that without it, but just again having like real stark visual cues right away, like you're communicating that pose so much more effectively and so much more quickly. Um, yeah, so that's why it's a good design choice, if nothing else. Like,
Yeah, and I know that like this is not the trunks have been around for a while, and this isn't sort of. I just think that this is a good place to go because of how minimalist the design
mm-hmm,
truly is.
mm-hmm.
But for the suit itself, I think it has to be an S tier.
Yeah,
It's another foundational block.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is
Sweet. Just before we move on, I just had to throw this piece in this page in just because I'd seen the year one sort of adaptation, and had actually never I looked at the art, but I'd never fully like dived into year one, and I did this last week, and it's as amazing as everyone says it is. You know, I can see why it blew people's minds. It blew my mind reading it, even though like I know everything. I know what comes after. I know the history. Just perfectly captures like why I love Batman. But this page specifically, it's really hard to read. Have you read the actual?
a long time ago, but yeah, no, that's fantastic.
It's that part when he breaks into the high society place where corrupt officials and all the mobsters are kind of gathering. You know, the commissioner, police Private Gordon is there, and he essentially is like, you have feasted on Gotham for long enough, and now it's over. You know, like I just love that Batman is a character who doesn't just in some iterations, he was just a guy who broke muggers and thugs, and this Batman, he hits people of his caliber, of like Bruce Wayne's caliber. He's not afraid to sort of take down people from the top. It would be nice to have a Batman around these days.
That'd be cool.
It would be cool if people who have at the highest levels who did bad things were
held accountable.
That would be cool. Love that. Okay, moving on. So this is just kind of known as the Troika Batman, which is based on the lists. I don't know if I've ever read anything that involved this. Just to be upfront, as we mentioned before, like the blue suit would kind of be iterated within, like that was a big part of Nightfall, was the blue suit. That's kind of prime 90s. This is sort of obviously, even though it's many years after, this is very heavily like Tim Burton, Michael Keaton, Batman inspired, with the all black and the big yellow. It's always been kind of a yellow oval, but like it looks so much different and much more vibrant when it's put against all black. Even though I'm not familiar with the stories and stuff, what do you feel about this suit?
I don't love this one. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's especially just kind of look at this panel on the right here, like the black with the reflections on it, like kind of from what we were talking about earlier. Like obviously this is a result of kind of comics being able to be colored better, but I don't think it's a better take on the suit necessarily or the character. I'd put this down in like D.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it's not a. I don't think it's a strong interpretation of the suit.
I think the black and yellow works really well for Batman in other medium. I think in comics, it's like you said, like that right image. Like it's playing with shadow, it's playing with darkness, but it doesn't have that same I am the night feeling that even like the year one has. And obviously like the composition isn't as heavily focused on portraying it that way. But yeah, I think it works really well for the Michael Keaton Batman and sort of the world that Tim Burton has built in those films. But for a comic Batman, I don't think it's not one of my favorites. I don't mind the big sharp shoulders. I think that is an aesthetic that we'll see in some other suits that does work better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I think D is fair. We gotta throw some down there. You know?
They can't all be winners.
No. All right, moving on to what is considered the Lawn Halloween Batsuit. Let you go for it.
I mean, I love this book. I don't think it's like the strongest version of the suit, though. I really love Tim Sale's artwork. Like, he's one of my favorite artists, but I yeah, I don't know, just for what it works for in the tone and kind of the more like creepy, um, kind of fantastical way he draws his figures and his costumes and stuff. As far as just like strictly going off a batsuit design, I don't think this is one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably put this in like a C. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's fair. Long Halloween is like one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. And I'm kind of weird and precious about certain things. Have you ever had like an experience where you've watched something or read something or just sort of experienced something and you're sort of like, I kind of want to just keep that as what it was, you know, like there's some stuff, and this is kind of rambling, but there's some stuff where it's like you love it and you want to sort of just devour everything related to it, right? You just can't get enough. For me, I have things that are almost the opposite, where it's like I've been so, you know, I'm satisfied by my experience that I don't want to change it in any way. And so like Long Halloween is one of those things I haven't read in a long time, but because my experience of obtaining it and reading it as a teen was just such a powerful experience that like I'm holding on to that memory of it, if that makes sense. There was like a local bookstore at the time that also had comics, and I was able to go through and find all but one or two floppies of this entire run.
Nice.
I think it's all 12 issues. There are 12 issues, and I think I was just missing one or two. And so like that was the first time I'd done that as like a fan of Batman, you know, coming off of animation and movies, and I'd read a couple other things, but so like that, I just have such a nostalgic love for this comic and the art in it, that I don't want that to, like you said, it doesn't influence how I feel about the suit standalone. I agree that's kind of in that C list when it's ranked with everything else, but it fits so perfectly for the story.
It does. And again, Long Halloween is probably one of the best Batman books, period. Like, it's just great, but yeah, just ranking it solely off like Batsuit, and especially in comparison to these other ones we've been talking about, I don't think it's quite up there with the other ones.
I do, and I know this is like comes from a color comic coloration standpoint, but I do like the sort of more greenish tint to the blue color. It's not as like sort of vibrant as some like the Silver Age or any of that kind of stuff, but and I like the bat symbol too. I feel like bat symbols is like a whole other thing that we could do. Like there's like it's an additive to the suit, but I feel like we could just talk about the bat symbols and stuff since there's been so many of them. Yeah, I said C for this one. Are you kind of?
Yeah, I'd agree. Put it in C.
S plus story though.
Yeah, 100%.
All righty. Number 9. So this is kind of just known as, like I said, we haven't read all of these eras. We didn't. Some of them we weren't even alive for as they were occurring. But this is known as the No Man's Land era. No Man's Land was like an arc that occurred in Batman at a time. Just from my bare knowledge of it, it's sort of like I think an earthquake occurs and it separates Gotham from the rest of the United States, and it makes it so like everything is bad. So I don't know a lot about the overall story. So just going off of the suit, what do you think?
it just feels pretty middle of the road again to me too. Just very, yeah, I don't know. They're not doing anything all that cool or special different than other suits, I guess. I the kind of like darker purpley blue on the left is kind of cool.
I dig that one. I mean, and I I like that image more than the other one.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like that one just looks just more. It just looks like a different color scheme for Batman.
Yeah.
Whereas the one on the right, um, obviously you have like muscle bound central in the core of of the chest and stuff. Like kind of getting into that Tim Burton bat suit, like having all the additional detail in the chest,
Hmm.
stuff that would also be iterated later on with like the Nolan Batman trilogy, where like it was all armored and highly detailed. Hmm. I mean, I don't dislike it. I just think
Yeah.
it doesn't do too much more than what everyone else is doing.
What we've seen already. Yeah. I'd put this probably down in C again.
Yeah, I would say C, or even I would even go D, just because I don't always dig the heavily armored bat suits.
Yeah. I think especially, again, it's one of those things that I think probably works better in movies than it does in the comics.
Well, like and again, I think we should do like a separate the non-comic bat suit. Um but I'm a big fan of like the Arkham Asylum game
Hmm.
series, and that's like a really heavily armored Batman, and I like that suit in those games exclusively
Hmm.
because you play as, you experience the things where you're like, oh yeah, I've been shot at, I've been stabbed, I've been run over, like through the course of the game. Like I know what this armor is protecting me from. Whereas like in comic book form, I feel like it doesn't work as well, at
Hmm.
least in this iteration. So yeah,
I agree.
CD for me.
Yeah, let's say D. D.
It's just like it's a less interesting version of some of the other stuff. Um,
Yeah. Well, I also just like, I don't really love this era for kind of what was popular at the time for art style either. Like, it just doesn't, the musculature is just a little too much. And like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it just feels wonky. Like, and that's less a design thing and more just a, stylistic choice across the
yeah,
board. But
the artistic culture, like you said at the time, and even though I have like late '90s, like I in some cases I really liked the '90s aesthetics. When you look at it through like a campy lens, like that's why I
mhm.
like it, because it is campy. Batman is not one of those characters that I like that being attributed to.
Yeah, I agree.
And who knows? Again, like maybe some of these storylines and stuff like are really cool and really fun, and I'd love to check them out in the future. But from its bat suit standpoint, that's a no for me.
Hmm.
All right, moving forward, I just titled this the Batman Hush. This is sort of like the early 2000s look. This is sort of like the revamp design for
Hmm.
Batman. Who at this point, it's interesting how you have a character who's been around for 80 years, who could go entire decades without a change, and once you hit like mid 1980, it's sort of like the character is going to go through some sort of renaissance every 15 to 20 years,
Hmm.
if not sooner. So this is almost like the redesign to the redesign,
Hmm.
the reiteration to the reiteration. A lot of Jim Lee influence, especially with like the Hush stuff. What do you think?
I love this version of Batman. This was really influential for me, just even as an artist too. Was just reading this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm a big Jim Lee fan, especially when he kind of moved over to DC more permanently around this time. But like again, it's like it's variations on the theme. It's still very basic, classic Batman. But I really love the like super thick utility belt. I
Mm-hmm.
love the cowl on this one. I like how the ears are like kind of in the middle of the head, as opposed to kind of being more further back, like they are for a lot of versions. Um, this is pretty definitive Batman look for me. Um, Yeah, I think I'd put this up in A tier. I think this is a really good, strong version of Batman that again lasted for at least kind of a decade. Kind of just this version of him in the
Yeah, with
mainline DC
differences here
stuff.
and there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. A all the way. This is a look that has grown on me a lot. Um, I I think this is where I can dig a blue and gray
Hmm.
black Batman. You know, because it is, sometimes it's more in that like navy blue realm instead of like a vibrant, like there's not
Hmm.
as much bright green to it
Hmm.
as some of like the Silver Age stuff, or it's not as cobalt y as sort of what we just saw in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Hmm.
And I think the body proportions, like, yeah, they're insane, but I think they work really well for Batman,
Hmm.
where he feels really strong, but also he feels like mobile. He feels athletic. Um,
Yeah, it's the way he's drawn in this era is a good combo of being really imposing, but still feeling like someone who can hop around and jump
yeah.
around on buildings really
Well,
agile. Is very agile and mobile. Yeah.
it's like Batman is a character who has to both be solid and fluid. Like
Hmm.
he has to be able to like stand his ground and be as strong and stationary as possible, but he also has to be able to jump and leap and glide. And um, I think this works so well
Hmm.
for that. It has a little bit of the Dark Knight Returns to it, where it feels like, I know that is technically its own sort of the Miller verse
Hmm.
of Batman, but this looks like a Batman that could eventually become
Hmm.
a Dark Knight Returns Batman. If you were to have that be like what you considered there's been many ends of Batman. Um, you know, if you were to consider that this is a lead into that pathway.
Hmm.
And also I like Hush. Hush was another one of those comics I got my hands on as a teen. So I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
like this is dark and crazy and weird and
Yeah. Well, the art for Hush is awesome. I think that this is kind of the strongest Jim Lee's really ever been, and less of it is to do with his actual drawing because like his stuff before is obviously really strong, but up until this point, like I think his style has really lent better to this kind of coloring.
mm-hmm.
Because you read like his X-Men stuff or his Image stuff from the '90s, where they're still kind of doing the same that old version, that old style of coloring. Like
Yeah, where it's which I love, but
this,
it's
like the busyness kind of blends in a little bit better. So it's like it still reads really strongly as like a full composition, and you still have all the Jim Lee like cross hatching and on the lines and stuff that
mm-hmm.
he's really known for. But it's visually a lot more pleasing to look at, I think. Um, and so like Hush, I think just reads a lot better and makes his line work feel a lot stronger in that regard because it isn't just like you're not staring at it like what am I looking at?
Yeah, you're not like like trying to decipher it. And I
Hmm.
think I think for me, a word that comes to mind whenever I think of like Batman comics or successful Batman comics is atmosphere.
Hmm.
So much of Batman's world is atmospheric, and I think when composition and character design can kind of all mesh well with that concept, it's when Batman's at its best.
Hmm.
I think Dark Knight Returns is an example of that. Um, there's another one down the line that I think is also a good example of that. But yeah, I think this is right there of like when when I close my eyes and think Batman, I think about some of these images more often than not, especially
Hmm.
because like this him on the gargoyle, um, right around the time that I was really getting into Batman as a gift, a friend of mine gave me like one of those steel plates that
Hmm.
was this image, and so like that was in my room for a very very long time, um, or it was in my window. It was getting faded, but like it's just been such a big part of my like love for the character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of it. Definite A. I almost want to go S, but I feel like because it is subdued, like it, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like Dark Knight Returns goes S because it has that extra like level to it, whereas I feel like this is just good. Like this is solid. This is solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. We have the Batman Incorporated. So Batman Incorporated was kind of hard to research because it's sort of like a thing that existed before New 52 and then also kind of was later continued in New 52. So it's hard to find like defined endpoints. So for this art specifically, I just did this 2010 one. What do you think?
I like this one. I think I like when in comics they kind of do this like seam here down the chest. I think that's kind of a cool look. I don't know if I'd put it like super far up there. I'd maybe put this in a B tier. It's a cool look. It's the strong. I think black and gray is a good look for Batman that we don't get as often. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. It looks like no trunks on this guy.
No trunks.
Yeah. So
yeah, this was the 2010s. People hated underwear.
yeah.
It was all about Axe body spray.
Spike TV.
Yeah. 5 gum. You think you wear underpants when you chew 5 gum?
No way, Jose.
No way, man. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing for me. Black and gray will always be my definitive color scheme for Batman, but that's because I'm a lover of like the animated series, which I know incorporates a lot of blue into that design as well. But black and gray will always be my favorite. I also like the seams that they add on superhero suits. I know, especially like when it comes to movie adaptations, and one of the big criminals of this is the MCU, is some of that can lead to like being over designed, like the paneling. But the thing is, and I know not everyone agrees with this, but there is a balance. I think sometimes it can be over designed, but also I'm someone who like as an artist, I like to draw detail, and sometimes it helps to have some like visual texture. You know, that breaks up sort of parts of the body and stuff. So I like being able to grab onto that kind of stuff.
Well, I think this is a good middle ground where it's like a little bit of visual breakup, but it's not trying to be like, yeah, like the MCU version where everything has just too much detail that you couldn't draw over and over again without breaking your hand, you know.
The only, and this could be like an artistic interpretation. The cowl isn't my favorite. It's a little too tight. But also just like if you were to take away the ears, like this just looks like the meme.
Man.
The man meme. And that kind of takes me out of it. Just you know, makes his head a little too bulbous. But again, it's just like that's just could be artistic interpretation. I couldn't draw either of these images like nearly to the level of detail and skill that they're at. So who am I to judge? Yeah, I would say B or C.
I could put it in C too. I think
only because there's a lack of trunks. I think that this image is really striking in particular. But if the suit looks more like this, then that's what kind of it has stuff that I like, but it's missing some things that I prefer. If that makes sense. But you know, I know that we're not talking about narrative and stuff. We're just talking about suits, but I think the concept of a Batman Incorporated is actually a cool idea. And I want to kind of check out some of these runs, investigating that. All right, moving on. Of course,
run to the bathroom real fast.
Good.
Be right back.
You know, when the alien parasite mold came to the Holy Moley Studios, I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, we have about like 200, maybe 300 staff. we got to look out for our staff, and so having to close the building down, the studio down, and burn it to clear the mold. Um, it's just probably one of the hardest things I've had to do as co-host of Holy Moley Studios and Comics. So, if you feel so inclined, give a video a like, subscribe, leave a comment on your favorite Batsuit, and your thoughts and prayers on us and the studio staff getting back into our building. God bless. Okay, so another big sort of iconic redesign, not just for Batman but for the whole of DC, was the New 52. What do you have any thoughts about the New 52 in general? And then what do you think about this suit?
I mean, I remember it. Not that I was even like keeping up with any current runs, but I remember how much of a big deal they made it back in the day. And then I feel like it kind of fizzled out for like a year.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it was cool, specifically some of the other hero redesigns. As far for Batman's design, I don't know. It's not bad. I don't think it's as strong. I like the cowl. I like the shorter ears on this one too. I like the color scheme, but I don't know. I'd maybe put this one in like a B.
I think that's fair. I think this design has grown on me a lot over the years. I think when it first came out, I didn't know how to feel about it again. I'm a Trunks supporter, and so anytime that there's a lack of Trunks, there's a lack of my love. I've also come to really appreciate Capullo's art more over the years as I've kind of gotten more into his artwork and everything. Batman probably had the best time when it came to the New 52. I mean, it gave us he had previously written for DC before, but I mean, like, Scott Snyder came on the scene. Obviously, like, he's done amazing things since then. You know, I think the sort of Court of Owls is one of the greatest new inventions for Batman. It's hard to deny that at all. Which is funny because this is sort of a tangent, but I was thinking about Batman the Animated Series last night, and I was like, man, the Court of Owls would have been such a phenomenal Batman the Animated Series villain.
Yeah, they would have fit right in there.
They would have fit so well. I think that there's a lot to like with New 52 Batman. I think that there's some other looks that he takes on throughout that I like a little bit more, but I think this is a solid B because it's in the realm of like the black and gray, which I like. Again, just like the previous thing we are talking about, it's missing some things that I like. And so therefore it's a lesser version. I think New 52 is something that we should do a full. I've only read a couple things from New 52. I've read more of the Batman stuff than anything else. I think it'd be fun to investigate. I've been watching some stuff about it recently, and it's just like, it's kind of insane to me just how different the world is then to now. Just in terms of like how comics are made and how people interpret them and how big companies sell them to us and everything. I think, yeah, it's just interesting. It's an interesting era of the company, and I'm glad that it survived because what it's doing today is incredible stuff, and I don't think that would have been possible if not for big bold moves like this back in the day. But in terms of the suit, I think it's like a B level.
Yeah, like it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it, I don't think, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't hit the same spot as some of the other ones, I think.
I think some of its best moments is, when reading some of these series, I don't think you can attribute its look to the design, but rather the art itself.
Mhm.
Like there are some phenomenal looking pages and panels, and the suit works so well for that in some of these issues.
Mhm.
But again, like that's from an overall artistic standpoint, not just the suit design. I'm trying to judge it just on the suit.
Mhm.
Yeah, B. I think B is all right.
B.
All righty. Bonus. This is a bonus, extra bonus power suit. This suit slaps.
That's the rules. Yeah.
This suit rules, and I'm not just saying that because I have 2 Lego versions of it. Because it was it was a cheap set at one point, and I got a couple of them because they came with a couple talons, and the talons are really cool. I like this suit a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
And again, we don't have to rank it officially. I just want to add it because it's cool, and
Yeah.
it's hard to be here. But he says, "Get the hell out of my house!" Like he wears this to evict people from his Batcave, and I think that's so cool.
Mhm.
And Batman as a character, mechs is like a thing that I'm kind of getting more interested in now that I'm older. I was never really into him, but Batman is totally a character that the mech works really well for him.
Mhm.
Um, like from a narrative standpoint, not just like a selling toy standpoint. Very cool. Okay, so this is also New 52. This is from what they did their origin. I haven't read this, but it's called 0 Year. So it's sort of their take on the year one. I haven't read it, but I would like to check it out at some point. What do you think about this?
It's a cool. Is it meant to be like a proto suit, or is it like a?
Yeah, it's meant to be sort of early vigilante
Hmm.
proto, but also has like sort of an apocalyptic flair to it as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it feels kind of Mad Maxy. I think it's cool. It's definitely, um, I don't know, a version of a suit. You know?
It's very different.
Yeah.
My issue is I kind of love it. I kind of love it.
I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out where I might put it because the criteria is just different for something like this than it is when we're
When
judging
it's
his other kind of
Yeah,
like main suits.
and it is like a
Um,
bit of a wild card in the lineup.
mhm.
Um, because it's like in ranking with everything else, is I think it has to be lower. But like from a standpoint of just like, do I like this design? The answer
Yeah.
is yes.
Yeah, like, it's a cool design. Like, you got the purple gloves.
Which I love. I didn't mention that before, but because I love that suit, I love the purple glove. So when they do reintroduce it, I'm a fan.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess in context, I'd maybe put this in, like, a B. Like, it's really cool, and it's a fun take, and I think, like, the bike is cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I feel bad because I included so much of the bike. I could have cropped it out more, but I'm like, oh, the bike is so cool. I don't want to.
seems like it's pretty heavily, tied to the rest of the look, so
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. No, I think, and like, I love all the extra gear. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's really fun. Like the utility belt isn't like the perfect Batman. Like everything has a container and it's kind of hidden. And like when you look at
Mhm.
the bat utility belt, uh, part of the fun is that like if I was just a goon, being like, "Oh, Batman, I'm going to get you," and I saw his utility belt, like looking at it, you don't know what it has, and part of that could be goofy, and I think
Mhm.
that's where the power comes from of the utility belt because he could reach in here and he could either pull out like a smoke bomb or he could have like a shard of kryptonite. Like you have no idea what the guy's got in his utility belt,
Mhm.
and I think this is a fun play on it being more literal utility belt, like construction worker,
Mhm.
explorer, adventurer, like tactical, without being tactical. You know,
Mhm.
um, I will go. I think B tier. I think almost C tier, just because I don't know if the cowl matches the rest of the suit as well as I would like it to.
Mhm.
Um, that could just be a color issue. But also maybe if I had read it I would, and had a little bit more context, I would feel differently one way or the other. But I think B is fair just because it is a cool looking suit.
Agreed.
And it has purple gloves, which I love. Okay, so as is sort of just a common trope of DC, you know, since the beginning, they do something, they make a mess, they
Wipe the slate.
they wipe the slate, but they also try to be like, well, the fun thing about it is about DC is when they wipe the slate, all parts of that process are canon. It's like the slate before, the slate after, and the cleaning of the slate are all part of the story. It's never just like they didn't do like a Disney Star Wars thing where they're just like all that stuff is we can pull from that, but all that stuff is definitively separate from the new stuff. They've never really fully done that. It's always been it's new, but some people actually remember how it was before. Some, so Rebirth was that for New 52. It was return to form / literal rebirth, just for the context of this era. Yeah, what do you think?
There are elements about this that I like. I think as a whole, it doesn't quite gel. I think like kind of the purple undercape is cool. That'd be something I think might be interesting to see more of. And I also don't hate like kind of the gold outlining on the symbol. I don't like the belt. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, lack of trunks. Like he looks kind of weird without the trunks. I would put this lower on the list. I'd probably put this in like a D.
You hit the nail on the head on literally everything I was thinking. Like there are parts that I like. There are additions that I like, but they do not outweigh the things I dislike. Yeah, I don't hate the outline of the symbol. I know some people are weird about that, but I don't see how. From an artistic standpoint, I feel like it does a similar thing that the oval does, but in a way, it's almost sleeker because it's not like a stamp on someone's chest all the way, or it's not like a logo necessarily. Like, like in I don't know if they do this in the comics, but I know like in some of the movies and especially the Arkham games, like he makes his symbol so pronounced because that's a heavily armored spot. And so he essentially gives them a target that he knows that they'll hit and he won't die. Like I think that's cool, and I think that this does that well. But yeah, the belt is horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense, and it just kind of looks bad. I don't know.
Well, it looks like it's meant to be in a different art style. Like if that was like a belt like on like a Samurai Jack character, like that would be different,
Yeah.
And I don't mind. I like the purple because purple and yellow are like a really good complementary duo, especially and gray as well when done right. But I think that particular gray is too white, and that particular purple is too dark. If it was more of like if there was a little bit more brightness to it, I think it would be different.
Yeah.
And then I don't hate whenever like the cowl upper shoulders are kind of all part of one thing. It just looks a little weird in this case. I think it's because like if there was maybe some additional like shoulder pads that went up or some kind of I don't know.
Yeah, well, and how it kind of dips into the chest there. Like it doesn't. It just doesn't visually doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's just not going together.
Yeah.
I almost think this suit would be better if that wasn't a cape.
Yeah.
Even though I prefer Batman to have a cape.
It's just like shoulder armor or something.
Yeah, I can almost see it working if it was just like a tactical suit type look. And again, the lack of trunks, this just makes this guy look like a Clockwork Orange guy. It just doesn't. I'm gonna go D, but I'm heavily considering F.
Yeah.
just because it's not horrible, but it's not for me. And the thing is, like, also as a fan of like toys and action figures and like Lego and stuff, when this design came out, ruined an entire wave of of action figures and toys. Just ruined it. All right. Sorry, Rebirth. I'm also glad now that I don't have any like artist people next to this, because like from a guy with like a quarter of the talent and skill that a lot of these working people have, like I always feel like, who am I to say these things? I'm just coming at it from like a personal opinion as an artist who likes to look at fun images. Okay, this is moving forward even further in time, kind of 2020s. This is the Dark Knight's death metal look. So we'll talk a little bit more of it down in a separate category, but there was the Dark Knight's metal saga that happened also by Scott Schneider. And then this is the sequel. So I read the first one. I haven't read this one yet, but Batman's suit in that other story is just like the normal suit. Have you read any of the metal stuff? It's really visually cool, and there's a lot of concepts that I think are really interesting. It's just one of those things where I feel like it should have just been its own story, not part of the continuity, because it's
continuity
been more successful. Yeah, what do you think about this suit?
I don't know. Like, it's cool. It's not my favorite. I think the one on the left, like, I think it's just more artistic interpretation differences compared to these two. I think the way it's drawn on the left works better than the way it's drawn on the right.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's a cool version. I wouldn't want this to be like my main Batman suit, you know?
No, and I think it was probably just for this series too.
Yeah, and it's like a fun kind of take on it. The one on the right feels a little too, I don't know, it feels a little too like Walmart t-shirt with SpongeBob. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a little too like 90s metal.
Yeah.
Like, and not in like a cool way where it's like kind of cool because it's over the top and ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd put this lower. I think I like the concept, and like I think there's a lot of fun design you can do with this, but just in terms of like overall looks, it's not my favorite. So I'd probably put this down in like a D as well.
I think that's fair. It has parts that I like, but I think that they're incorporated in some other designs, limited appearance designs in the past and the future. Like, I like the trench coat kind of aesthetic, and I also like the bat sort of like knee pad. I think that's pretty cool. And also this like dinosaur motorcycle is really sick. I think I think you should check out Metal, at least like the collection. I read it through Hoopla for free, so I enjoyed it for that. And there's a lot of cool art and some interesting concepts, and I might check this one out too. But yeah, I think D is fair. It has some concepts that are interesting, but yeah, overall it's not fair. Okay, so we're going into current / modern. So I have two more of this type. I know Absolute Batman is technically within its own world, but right now it is Batman. Like, right now is what people are thinking of when they're thinking Batman. And it also will eventually cross over into the true DC universe.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think it is applicable to put it here and not in like one of my other categories. What do you think about this?
This got to be S tier too. Like, the Absolute Batman suit, it's such a cool take on it. because it's like still got the classic kind of design language of Batman, but does some really cool things, especially with the cape and especially with the axe.
Hmm.
Like, I just think it's just so badass. This version of Batman, I think, is landing for a lot of people because it is a kind of fresh take on just the character in general and his background, and a lot of that feeds into the suit. Like this to me is like if you did do like a this is would be a successful version of like a metal version of
Exactly. Hmm.
Batman.
Spiky
Um,
shoulders and everything.
yeah, it's just so yeah, it's just awesome. Like everything about this is just really cool. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. I don't want to say that it grew on me because I kind of liked it from the beginning, but it has grown on me in that I just have a higher love and appreciation for it
Hmm.
as I see it more and more. Um, it doesn't feel like a gimmick, like how a lot of like sort of reinterpretations feel. Um, I think the look fits the character so well, and again, like I like a big, thickum Batman.
Hmm.
I like my Batman thick, um, and I think that this ties well to like why I like the Dark Knight Returns while still being
Hmm.
it's completely its own thing. There's not a lot. There really isn't a lot of Dark Knight Returns to it because it is like the fresh new Batman and not like an old
Hmm.
faded Batman. Um, yeah, I love the Fat Bat, especially because it has utility. I wasn't sure about it at first, but with seeing the utility, it makes it all the better.
Hmm.
He has the trunks. He has the high sort of boots, and then I love how they've changed his cape too.
Hmm.
Like I like that it has those sort of grappling hooks and how he can also kind of walk on them. And
Hmm. Use those as weapons or use them as yeah, just they utilize the costume in the comics really well too. So it's not just like, oh, this looks cool. It's like, yeah, but he's like, there's still function to everything.
yeah, where it's like the spikes can kind of come out of him,
Hmm.
like they can extend out. So like there's that part when there's a bunch of guys that are like swarming him, and he just sort of like puffer fishes.
Hmm.
And like that's awesome. I love the black bands around the wrists.
Hmm.
Like just has that extra, sort of grit to it, but in a way that's sort of like it reads construction worker with sort of like the take that they've gone with Absolute
Hmm.
Batman. Yeah, I think, man, it's just what a fun, like this to me, Absolute Batman just showcases why I love Batman and the world of Batman um, so much. And it's just because
Hmm.
like over these 80 years, we've established a character that is just as iconic as and interesting as sort of like a public domain figure would be,
Hmm.
right? Where like we now know enough about them, we have our own feelings about them, we built these interpretations of them and their world that we can really kind of plug and play with them and and play with how we interpret that character further. And like Absolute Universe in general is just amazing, but especially Absolute Batman, I just love what they're doing because
Hmm.
it's fun. It's fun as a fan. My whole, for most of my whole life, I've been a fan of Batman. Like it's fun just to see this kind of stuff. And the suit is like one of the best redesigns for a new
Yeah,
Batman.
yeah. It was just such a cool, fresh take on the character because I don't feel like it. I don't feel like Batman ever got like tired necessarily, but like it felt a little bit stale. Um,
Well, it's just hard to like when you have a character who we're meant to believe has like gone through all this stuff consecutively,
mhm.
And like I know that some comic book fans like that, but I don't know. I don't necessarily. I've never really been like I'm gonna read issues 1 through 800. Like
Yeah.
I just haven't that's not been my experience with the comics because I'm like a comic scavenger. I have to pick up what
Mhm.
I can. And for me as a kid, it was a lot of random issues. It was a lot of trade paperbacks. You know, it was whatever the library had or whatever my dad had in his collection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like this to me is embraces that in a really fun way, where it's taking the history of Batman and rewarding you. Oh, you remember this? Here's it in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or have you ever wanted to see this, or have you, you know, it's very what if in that way. And I have always liked the what ifs, the else worlds of these characters, because I think that they can take them to places that if you had to maintain sort of a continuity would be difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes the stakes higher, and I think the suit reflects this character so well. Yeah, I love this suit.
Mm-hmm.
In the you'll have to include Davis did an incredible rendition of the suit as a Christmas gift to me this year, and hopefully he will include it in this because it's I want to shout him out. It's awesome.
Right.
I look at it every day. Every day I go up to it and I absolutely love you. He's also cool because he has all the little tools like the flamethrower and all the other stuff he has going on. Yeah, we're going to talk about Absolute Batman's. We should do that before too long. But yeah, I love this. All right, and then I think this is my last one for the continuity grouping. We have the Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez sort of Batman #1 reissue that they've just started coming out with. And I haven't really read it. I've just looked at the art. What do you think? Have you checked it out at all? Or
I haven't read this yet either. I like this one. I don't think it's like my favorite, but I think it's a cool take. I don't think we've really seen like blue for the symbol before. I also think it's a cool design for the symbol that we haven't really seen yet either. Yeah, I mean, without knowing too much about the story on this one, like I do think it is kind of a cool take on the suit. I'd probably put this up around like B tier.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that the blue, I think something that we've kind of discussed throughout this video is that like when it comes to costume design, balance is like a big thing for us. And I think the blue logo adds to the overall balance. Whereas like in previous ones, when you still have the black and yellow logo, but the blue cow, it can be kind of funky.
Yeah, letting the yellow kind of just exist only on the belt, I think is a fun visual balance there because it can get kind of cluttered, I think, and depending on pose or whatever with yellow symbol, yellow belt. Yeah, I think it works pretty well. You kind of have the 70-30-10 thing going on here with the gray, blue, yellow. So feels good. Plus, I mean, I just like Jimenez's style.
The art, yeah, the art is just doing so much heavy lifting. But it is a great partnership with like a good design. But like the art itself is doing so much of the heavy lifting. I think in terms of like the layout of the suit, I really, really like it. Like, again, I feel like it's that classic Batman of what you think of cowl to cape to everything else sort of ratio. It has the trunks, it has the belt. The belt isn't some stupid geometric garbage. You know, the logo is big and prominent, but it's not like too fat bat. Yeah, I'm really into it. I think it's a cool look, and I think it's a fun way to bring back the blue. And I think it's smart too that if you're going to have, I mean, DC's been no stranger to having multiple Batman series running simultaneously. This is a good way to distinguish your continuity Batman from your absolute Batman. You know, let your absolute Batman sort of embrace that dark aspect more because it's more fitting to the narrative and the character. And then let your your base Batman with all the history sort of embrace sort of the classical blue look.
Mm-hmm.
Showcase that's a character who has experienced many eras and kind of represent many time periods.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really good sort of dichotomy for sure.
Yeah, it's a good way to have that visual distinction, so people aren't like. I don't think even casual readers would really get too confused between Absolute and main Batman, but still just a good way
Yeah.
to just have some kind of separation between the two.
Well, it helps too because it's like, this is it's funny because like this is a very strong looking Batman still. Like he has really cool proportions, but he's also like he's buff. But when you put this next to the other guy, you know who is the absolute
Mm-hmm.
Batman. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's really smart from a standpoint where you don't want, for those who don't want your base Batman to suffer, because not everyone's going to jump on board with absolute, even though I think a lot of people really have. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just saw today that like the absolute series sold 8 million books upon its formation, and
Like Absolute, the whole Absolute
I think
runs
so, yeah.
in total.
Like
That's
in,
crazy.
in like a first sort of quarter period type thing, like it's just insanely. And I'm not trying to be like, yeah, big companies making millions. I'm not trying to be like that. You want these, yeah, it's a big evil corporation, whatever, but you want the artists and the creators and the people who are making this happen, you want their ideas to succeed.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think it's nice to see that proven. That like that these cool ideas are being well received
yeah, like
and
it
that
just
they're
shows
getting a
like,
lot of eyeballs.
yeah, you're bringing more people in. I hate gatekeeping in any kind of like sort of fandom or hobby. Like it's just, I don't know. It just, it's a microcosm of like larger issues in the world, but it's sort of like gatekeeping is bad because if you want a thing to live, you need people to enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
to keep it alive, right? And so it's sort of like if you gatekeep people out of a hobby and that hobby dies, you can't be mad at anybody but yourself for that hobby dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you need, it's just like humans that human go away if no more human. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the city is abandoned because no one lives here. Like we need people to live here.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to build, these characters and stuff. They're little environments that we're building up as a community, and that we need to all cohabitate together within it. And so I think that's what's fun about doing like these kind of ranking videos is like you can see these eras and how different, an iconic character like Batman, like all the
Mm-hmm.
changes he's gone through. Yeah, so those are all my picks that I did for the main Bruce Wayne Batman. I know that there's some other ones that have popped up, and there's some silly ones. Like, of course, there's like the classic zebra or the rainbow suit ones, but they're just joke ones.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to include a lot of like color swaps because that's exactly what they are. They
Mm-hmm.
don't add anything. But if you were to pick like 2 or 3 favorites of that, where do you think you would land?
Of like the goofy
Of,
ones or of what we talked
of
about?
just these, of like out of the ones that we just looked at today.
I would probably Absolute Batman would be up there. The Dark Knight Returns Batman would be up there. And then probably Jim Lee Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Batman Hush, those would probably be my top 3.
Yeah, that's a solid lineup. I would probably go Dark Knight Returns, first appearance by Darwin Cook, and then Year One, and then Absolute Batman's getting there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying not to be too like. Obviously, I'm on the bandwagon and I'm loving it. Like I've read it. We talk about it, we like it, but I'm not trying to be too like the new thing is the greatest thing that's ever
Recency
been.
bias, yeah.
Because I want things to have time to just sort of settle.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to be reactionary and be like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen." even
Mhm.
though it is, some of it is, especially when Daniel Warren Johnson's the one doing the artwork.
Mhm.
Cool.
All right. Thank you for watching. We'll do a part 2 of this where we talk about some Elseworlds and the other people who've taken on the Batman mantle. Talk about their suits. But in the meantime, feel free to like, share, subscribe to the channel, help us out. Keep an eye out for Tales from the Bin episode 2 coming up next. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for watching. Let us know your favorite Batsuit, unless it's the Rebirth one. Then